Plan. There comes a moment in every life when fear becomes louder than faith. Plan. When the voices inside your head don't whisper, they scream. Plan. You can't. You'll fail. You're not enough. And slowly, without even noticing, plan. We start building a home inside that fear. A home made of doubt, silence, and hesitation. Plan. But that's not where your story ends. That's where it begins. Fear is not your enemy. It is your teacher. Plan. It shows up when you're on the edge of something new. It arrives when your next step holds growth. Plan. But what fear doesn't want you to know is this: it only has power when you stop moving. Plan. Fear can't control a soul that decides to rise anyway. Today, I'm not asking you to be fearless. I'm asking you to wake up. Plan. Wake up from fear. Wake up from the lie that says you're stuck. You are not stuck. You're just scared. Plan. And fear is loudest before the breakthrough. Don't let it convince you to give up moments before your life changes. Plan. Let it be the alarm clock, not the anchor. Your life is waiting on the other side of fear. Not a perfect life, but a powerful one. Plan. One where you speak even when your voice shakes. One where you walk even when your knees tremble. Plan. One where you stop letting fear write your story and start writing it yourself. You don't have to feel ready. Plan. You just have to be willing. Willing to try. Willing to fall. Willing to rise again. Braver, bolder. Plan. And more real than ever before. So, wake up, not just from sleep, but from fear. Wake up to your strength. Wake up to your voice. Plan. Wake up to the fire in your soul that's been waiting to burn brighter than your fear ever could. Plan. There's something profoundly human about fear. It creeps in when we stand on the edge of change. Not because we are weak. Plan. But because we are about to grow. Fear often disguises itself as a warning, a barrier, a stop sign. But in truth, it is a signal. Plan. A signal that you are stepping into unfamiliar territory, that your spirit is stirring. Plan. That you are moving beyond what is safe and known. Fear doesn't come to defeat you. Plan. It comes to reveal to you that something greater is being born. And it's usually you. Plan. Many of us mistake the presence of fear as a sign to stop. We think, if I'm afraid, plan, maybe I'm not ready. If I'm scared, plan, maybe it's not meant for me. But what if fear was actually the sign that you are exactly where you need to be? Plan. What if the trembling hands and racing heart were not warnings, but confirmations? Plan. The fear that rises inside you isn't there to tell you to quit. It's there to tell you, plan. You're about to enter the part of your life where everything changes. Think about every turning point you've had in life. Wasn't fear there too? Plan. Before the decision, before the leap, before the transformation. Fear always shows up before a breakthrough. Plan. It knocks on the door of your comfort zone and dares you to open it. Plan. But most people don't. Not because they aren't capable, but because they think fear is the final word. It's not. Plan. It's the first word in a brand new chapter. The chapter where you stop hiding and start becoming. Fear in its rawest form, plan, is simply an invitation, an invitation to rise, to challenge, to awaken parts of yourself you've never seen. Plan. It's a quiet nudge from your inner self saying, you're meant for more. And if you listen carefully, plan, you'll realize fear doesn't come to paralyze you. It comes to prepare you. Plan. So the next time you feel fear pressing against your chest, don't run from it. Lean into it, not to be consumed, plan, but to be called forward. So often we tell ourselves, I'm stuck. We whisper it in the silence of our own minds, plan, convincing ourselves that life has pinned us down, that we've lost all options. But what if you're not stuck at all? Plan. What if you're simply standing still because fear is gripping your feet like cement? The truth is, most of the time, plan, we aren't out of options. We're just out of courage. The walls around you may not be real walls. Plan. They might just be shadows created by fear, and fear can be walked through. We confuse stillness with powerlessness. Plan. But they are not the same. You're not powerless. You're paused. Plan. You haven't lost your ability to move forward. You've just forgotten that courage doesn't come before action. Plan. It comes with it. The mind loves familiarity, and fear uses that against you. It says, stay where it's safe. Plan. Stay where it's quiet. Don't try, don't reach, don't speak. And so we sit, we settle, plan. Not because we are incapable, but because we are scared of finding out that we actually can plan. Sometimes it's not the external world that holds us back. It's the stories we keep repeating inside. The story that says, plan. You've already failed too many times. The story that whispers, no one will understand you. And the worst story of all, plan. You're not meant for more. But the beautiful thing about stories, they can be rewritten. You are not trapped by your past, plan. You are not locked into your fear. You are a living, breathing being capable of movement, growth and rebirth at any given moment, plan. The idea of being stuck is an illusion built by fear and sustained by doubt. Plan. If you can stand up emotionally, even if it's shaky, then you can move. You can choose a new direction. Plan. Even if the first step feels terrifying, there's no shame in being afraid. But there's danger in believing that fear means stop. Plan. The next time you hear yourself say, I'm stuck, ask yourself gently, plan. Or am I just scared? Because when you change that narrative, the entire path forward begins to open. Plan. Fear has a voice, one that often shouts when you're closest to your calling. It screams doubts into your mind. Plan. It tells you to turn back, to take the safer road, to stay small and invisible. And because fear is loud, plan, we believe it must be right. But volume doesn't equal truth, plan. Just because fear is louder in the moment doesn't mean it's stronger. Beneath all that noise, plan, there's a quieter force waiting for you to hear it. Your purpose. And that voice, though soft at first, plan, carries the strength to guide you home to yourself. Purpose doesn't always arrive in fireworks or loud revelations. Sometimes, plan, it comes as a whisper, an ache in your chest when you know you're meant for something more. Plan, a tug in your soul that won't let you rest. That whisper is your compass. And while fear demands attention with urgency and panic, plan. Purpose waits with patience and power. It doesn't beg for your trust, it invites it. The louder fear gets, plan, the more critical it becomes to lean in and listen. Not to the chaos, but to the calm voice that keeps saying, "You're meant to rise." You see, fear might get the first word, but it should never get the final one, plan. Your life wasn't created to be a story of avoidance. It was created to be a story of rising, of choosing purpose, plan. Again and again, even when fear tries to drown it out. Think of all the moments you've pushed past doubt before. Plan. You didn't do that by silencing fear. You did it by turning up the volume on your why. Plan. You focused on the reason you couldn't stay where you were. That is what gave you the strength to move forward. Plan. Purpose is louder in action than in words. Plan. Every time you take a step toward what matters, even a trembling one, you amplify your purpose and dim the noise of fear. Plan. Fear is loud when we're still. But when we move, even slowly, we awaken something much more powerful. Something rooted. Plan. Something real. The voice of your purpose doesn't yell. It doesn't need to. Plan. It simply waits for you to believe in it enough to follow. And when you do, plan, everything begins to shift. Not because fear disappeared, plan, but because it no longer controlled the volume. One of the biggest lies fear tells us is this, plan. Wait until you're ready. It makes you believe there's a perfect moment when everything will be clear, plan. When your confidence will align, when the doubts will disappear. But that moment rarely comes. The truth is, plan. Most of the people who do something extraordinary didn't feel ready when they started. They were scared, unsure, plan, full of questions. But they took a step anyway. They began with shaking hands and a heart that didn't know what came next. Plan. And that's what made all the difference. You don't need clarity to begin. You need courage. Plan. You don't need a perfect plan. You need presence. We wait so long to feel enough. Before we begin that we lose precious time. Plan. But readiness doesn't come before the journey. It shows up during it. It builds quietly in the background as you make choices, plan, face resistance, and keep showing up. What if the very thing you've been waiting for, the readiness, the strength, plan, the belief, was already inside you, just waiting for you to start moving? Plan. There's something profoundly brave about starting before you feel ready. Plan. It's the kind of courage that doesn't announce itself, but changes everything. Plan. Beginning isn't about having everything figured out. It's about trusting that you'll figure it out along the way. Plan. When you give yourself permission to begin without certainty, you open the door to possibility. Plan. You allow life to unfold, not perfectly, but powerfully. Because the truth is, no dream is fulfilled in the comfort zone. Plan. And no transformation begins with full control. So if you're waiting for a sign for the perfect timing, plan. For the fear to disappear, that's fear winning. Start where you are. Start with the doubt. Plan. Start with the shaking voice and the trembling step. You don't need to be fearless to move forward. You just need to be willing. Plan. The path won't light up all at once, but with each step you take, more of it will become visible. Plan. You don't need to feel ready to begin. You just need to begin. Fear is loud inside a quiet mind. Plan. It grows in the silence where your truth has no voice. It multiplies in the dark corners where you hide your feelings, your pain. Plan. Your story. The more you suppress what you carry, the more power fear gains over your life. Plan. But when you find the courage to speak, even if your voice trembles, you begin to break fear's grip. You don't have to shout. Plan. You don't have to explain yourself to the world. But you do have to be honest with yourself. Your truth matters. Plan. And it deserves air, not silence. We're raised to believe that strength is silence, that keeping things in means we're strong. Plan. Composed in control. But the truth is, silence is where fear gets comfortable. It's where it grows unchecked. Plan. When you finally put words to your pain, when you name what hurts. Plan. When you allow yourself to feel out loud, that's when healing begins. Plan. Speaking your truth doesn't mean you have all the answers. It means you're choosing honesty over hiding, freedom over fear. Plan. There is something deeply powerful about saying, "This is what I'm feeling," not for sympathy, not for approval. Plan. But because your story deserves to be acknowledged. Too often. Plan. We wear a mask of okayness while our inner world collapses in silence. But masks don't heal wounds, they hide them. Plan. And what you hide, you carry longer than you need to. Letting your truth breathe isn't weakness, it's release. Plan. It's you declaring to the fear inside you. Plan. You don't get to control me anymore. When you begin to speak, even in small whispers, you invite connection, compassion. Plan. And clarity into your life. You realize you're not alone, that others have walked through fear too, that your voice. Plan. No matter how unsure, is a bridge to someone else's healing as well. Silence isolates, but truth liberates. Plan. And every time you speak what's real, fear loses another piece of its power. Your voice may not be the loudest, but it is enough. Plan. And in speaking your truth. Plan. You begin to reclaim your strength, one word at a time. We often wait for fear to disappear before we act. Plan. We convince ourselves that we'll take the step once the fear fades, once the heart stops racing, once the mind calms down. Plan. But fear doesn't vanish before the leap. It fades during the flight. Courage isn't found in a fearless heart. Plan. It's found in the trembling one that chooses to keep going anyway. Plan. True courage is standing in the face of fear and whispering to yourself, Plan. I'm scared, but I'm still going. Courage is quiet. It doesn't always come with grand speeches or bold declarations. Plan. Sometimes it looks like getting out of bed on the days you'd rather stay hidden. Sometimes. Plan. It's walking into the room even when your hands are shaking. Plan. Courage is not about the absence of fear. It's about choosing to rise with it sitting right beside you. Plan. It's about showing up with your doubt, with your pain, and still deciding to try, even if your voice shakes. Plan. Even if your knees do too. People often mistake brave souls for fearless ones. But the truth is, Plan, The bravest people are those who feel fear deeply and still choose action, plan. They aren't superhuman. They're just unwilling to let fear have the final say. They feel it, plan, but they don't let it paralyze them. They carry it, but they don't surrender to it. That's where strength is born, plan. In that space between fear and forward motion, in that split-second decision to say, yes, I'll go, plan, even with the fear. So if you're scared right now, good. That means you're alive. That means something matters, plan. And if it matters, it's worth the risk. Don't wait for the fear to disappear before you start living. Let the fear ride along, plan. But don't hand it the wheel. You don't have to be fearless to be free. You just need to be willing to move while afraid, plan. That single decision, to move anyway, is the foundation of every breakthrough you've ever dreamed of. There's a voice inside you that has been whispering since the beginning, plan. You are meant for more. Not more in terms of status or applause, but more in terms of becoming, plan. You were not created to stay stuck in the place where pain found you. You were not meant to make a home out of heartbreak, failure, plan, or fear. These moments were chapters, not the conclusion, plan. And even if you've been there for a while, even if you've decorated the walls of your struggle, you are not meant to remain, plan. You are meant to rise. The world may have tried to convince you otherwise. Maybe someone told you that your dreams were unrealistic, plan. Maybe your circumstances made you feel trapped, plan. Maybe life's detours made you believe that healing was impossible or that joy was something only others were allowed to feel, plan. But none of that is your truth. Your truth is in your resilience, plan. In the quiet strength that keeps showing up even when the light is dim, plan. In the breath you took this morning despite all the nights that almost broke you. Staying in the same place. Mentally, emotionally, plan, spiritually, can feel safe even when it's painful. We become familiar with our wounds, plan. We learn how to function inside our own brokenness. But familiarity is not freedom. Comfort is not the same as peace, plan. Growth demands movement. It calls you to stretch, to shift, plan. To leave behind what no longer serves the future version of yourself that is waiting to emerge. Rising doesn't always look heroic, plan. Sometimes it's just a small decision, one honest conversation, one brave step, one new beginning. You were born with wings, plan, not chains. And even if you've forgotten how to fly, the sky never forgot your name. You were made to rise, not just once, plan. But again and again, with every fall, with every doubt, with every broken piece you gather and carry forward, plan. Rising is your birthright, plan. And it begins the moment you stop settling for survival and start reaching for something more, something deeper, truer, freer, plan. Because no matter how heavy the past has been, you were never meant to remain there. So today, plan. If you're waking up with fear sitting heavy on your chest, I want you to know this: you are not alone. Fear is part of the journey, plan, but it is not the destination. It does not own your future, your worth, or your voice. Every step you take, even the smallest one, plan, is a quiet rebellion against everything that ever tried to break you. And that matters, that counts. That is strength. Plan. Don't wait for the fear to leave before you begin. Wake up with it and begin anyway. Choose to rise even if your legs shake. Plan. Choose to speak even if your voice trembles. Plan. Because the life you've been waiting for isn't found in comfort zones or perfect moments. It's built in the middle of the fear. Plan. In the middle of the mess, in the exact place where you choose not to give up. You don't have to roar to be powerful. Plan. You just have to keep showing up. For your dreams. For your healing. For yourself. Plan. Because you were never meant to live a life ruled by fear. You were meant to live free. Bold, unapologetic, awake. Plan. So wake up, not just from sleep, but from silence, from hesitation, from the lie that says you can't. The truth is, you can. Plan. You already are. And today is proof, because you're still here, you're still breathing. And as long as that's true, plan. Your story isn't over. It's only just beginning.